Greetings and welcome back to another edition of Perspectives. Today I am joined at long last by an actual Polish person. I have had a Polish person before, but he lived in France or Switzerland, so not exactly the same thing. No, I have a blue-blooded, real Polish person who probably doesn't fit into the traditional perception of how we non-Polish outsiders look at Poland when it comes to the political. So with that said, I will welcome Stisiag, and I will just say, Shema Shema, kurwa kurwa, ja pierdolę. That's the full extent of my Polish.
I think you nailed it, the traditional Polish greetings. So.
Yeah, at least in video games, that's how they always greeted me. So.
Yeah, that's probably it. Yeah.
So you before we started officially, you were talking about how in the past year, I mean, you're young. If you don't mind me asking, what am I, 24?
Well,
25?
Yeah, I'm 27, so not so young.
Okay, well, younger than I am, a lot younger. But that you've moved away from, I guess, really any particular political position. But I mean, not counting the outsider perspective, that the things that we experience not living in Poland, non-Polish people. What is the majority Polish political outlook in Poland at the moment and for the past years?
So I think that to understand what's going on politically in Poland, you have to be aware that we've been in this really very antagonistic limbo for 7 years now, because 7 years ago there was this crash. The famous crash where our president died, and a lot of important people as well. They were on their way to commemorate the mass shooting, the Soviet war crime that is like one of the most important things for us as the people, and the plane crashed, and all the conspiracy theories raised up that Putin basically killed our president. And it's like our political scene is torn between two parties. Like this, there is this currently in charge Law and Justice, or PIS, as the Polish abbreviation goes, and then there's so-called citizen platform. You can, for example, the chairman of, I don't know, Donald Tusk, the is from this group. So basically, those two parties originated from very similar background. I'm way too young to know all the details, because I never studied it in detail, but basically I think that for 10 years there's this divide, because those two parties were supposed to have a coalition and then rule together, govern together, but suddenly they split, and we have this really polarized scene where you would call it like the citizen platform is the more liberal one, and the more conservative one is the Law and Justice, and they also attract to them basically the people that I wouldn't have many things to talk about is educated young person from a big city, because Warsaw is it's quite big. I think it's certainly it's our capital, so it's the biggest one. And basically when you walk on the streets of Warsaw, you see basically just a Western city. If we are very homogenic as a nation, but if you want to see some minorities, this is the place.
Yeah. Well, I think right.
But basically it's a Western city, and like this big cities big European cities tend to be like more liberal, and
that's the same in the United States. Every
yes,
big city
I
tends
think
to be
it's
more liberal.
worldwide. It's like this worldwide, at least in the West, or countries which aspire to be off the West. basically, yeah. So this, and when the crash happened, because the citizen platform had the parliament, they were the biggest party in the parliament, and Law and Justice had their president still. And because formerly they held also the parliament, but they didn't have never had any majority. They were forced into calling for the earlier election, which they lost. And basically there was this split, and there was this annoying back and forth, like supporters for one party like hated guts of the others, and vice versa. And then the crash happened, and lots of important people from Law and Justice died, and especially the presidential couple. And since then, the conflict escalated because the Law and Justice people, I don't know why, but I think it's, and of course you need to mention that the president had a twin, and the twin is the basically boss of this Law and Justice party, like they were twins. Mm. And to me it was weird that, to me it was weird why Law and Justice clinged to the conspiracy theory. Was it, I don't know, megalomania, that we mattered more than basically we matter in the world? Because, the conspiracy theory that there was an explosion and that Putin took down our president to basically, I don't know, cause chaos all over the country. But ever since the split was, the conflict escalated because the Law and Justice Party supporters had this conspiracy theory, blessed with the blessing of that president's twin. And I think that, and this conflict, that it went on for a couple of years, 5 years or 6, with with views were very polarized, that the press, of course, was very polarized, and it was very easy and natural to, go to be a supporter of the citizen platform, because, if you're, it was natural because when you logically supported the theory that was somewhat proven, that the crash was it was a very sad, but it was an accident, actually, that the weather was very bad on this particular day, and so on. But it also pushed me as a person away from politics, because the politicians never seemed to argue about any important points. They were always talking about basically the crash and their feelings about each other. And years went by, and now we had a power switch, the sitting president who replaced the guy the dead one, the one who tragically died in the catastrophe. He never was respected by me, and it turned out that he also couldn't win the re-election which he was supposed to win. It was a huge shocker. it was a huge shocker because first of all, he had his opponent, who is now the sitting president. He was a political nobody. Nobody ever knew him. Donald Tusk, when asked about him, he he thought that they were asking about another person. This was the level of his insignificance, and basically he was just anointed by the dead president's twin to be like his puppet. The guy likes to not directly take responsibility for the actions of his party and himself, but he delegates these political nobodies to basically do his bidding. Which and of course, and also he's famous for being quite short and not very good looking. So he's kind of cartoon character, but of course he loves the country in his own way. Basically, I don't like criticizing, bashing anybody, but I don't think that this person should be in politics because of his personal tragedy and how he obviously translates this personal tragedy to his actions. But anyway, we had the power switch. I don't know, everyone got fed up with this sitting president from Citizen Platform, and this also it was a weird election because first of all there were three candidates. Everyone was so fed up with this constant conflict between those two biggest parties that a third candidate emerged. And he wasn't really a politician. He was a musician, not a very good one in my opinion, but he was like a rock man, and basically, I don't know if he was a heavy drinker, but certainly sounds like one. But he had in the first leg of this presidential election, we have it in France, if there is a second turn, if nobody gets 50% in the first one, but in the first turn of our presidential election, this musician gathered something like 20% of votes, mine included, because I was so fed up with this. It was like giving an empty ballot, but with signaling. For me, it was like signaling that I'm too fed up with those with the ongoing situation. And around 20% of the people felt the same way. And the unknown now president won the first turn, and then handily won the second turn. And as the Polish president can't do much, he just sits there in our presidential palace and signs everything that the Kaczynski, the Kaczynskis were the twins. So we have the Lech Kaczynski was the dead president, and now the Jarosław Kaczynski is the guy who is like Cardinal Richelieu, and just pulls all the strings and is the most important guy ever. So
the question during all of this, so one of the reasons why Poland was in the news a year or two ago was because of the immigration crisis.
Oh and, that's Sorry, because I just tend to talk a lot, but basically,
yes, I gathered that. But so if I might just briefly, so Western Europe dealt with the immigration. Crisis. It was created by Western Europe, but
it was
at least directly, and so countries such as Hungary and Slovakia and Poland as well. decided that they wouldn't bow down to the demands of Brussels.
Yeah, they did. And, well, basically, from my perspective, is that there wasn't, it was a very easy statement to make because, the migrants in bulk, they don't really want to come here. Like we are not attractive. The wages are low, and
well, yes, that's a factor
amount of
as well.
support, the amount of support that we would provide for migrants wouldn't be as much as they can do in, I don't know, Scandinavia or Germany. So, well, by saying that, they just gathered pretty much some good PR, and I think that in a way, well, there wasn't any other answer to give to Brussels, and because nobody here, basically, not many people here are thrilled to take in migrants with everything that, a lot of anecdotal evidence for problems that arise. And also our society, I think, isn't very welcoming in the grander scheme of things of such people. And of course, you have this pretty solid evidence and statistics that people who come from there basically want to get back there and or are unfit to blend in the society, especially our society where the language is very hard to learn. People aren't just as friendly as they could be, I guess. But I think that that it was a very cheap way of gathering good PR, because in general people are very skeptical of waves of migrants. And
what are your own personal views on that? Since you're
it will sound harsh, but
dude,
I
you don't know much. Believe me, it's fine. Go on.
What? Well, yeah, it will sound harsh, but I personally don't think that those people should enter Europe.
Well, that's my view, and I think the view of the vast majority of my subscribers. I don't think that's harsh at all.
Yeah, there's always this humanitarian angle, and I'm very, very for, lending a hand and trying to solve the problems that arise when there's war and there's suffering. And I'm not deaf to people's suffering. Just I don't think that assuming like a weird high ground that we will take additional citizens and is the answer. I think that the answer lies the answer for the Middle Eastern people lies in the Middle East, and we can help them there to an extent, and basically should.
I think this is interesting because this is a very reasonable position, I think, and
I try to be reasonable.
Well, I think it might be to do with you being Polish. You see, in the West, in Western Europe or the United States, that would be viewed as not only completely unreasonable, it would be viewed as racist and all sorts of things.
Yeah, I know all the buzzwords. I like.
Right. Well, actually, I don't know if you know, but I was joking on a thread recently in the BSN, and I got a PM from somebody who told me I couldn't use a word because it was offensive. So, I mean, it's everywhere. And here's the thing: I think that Poland and other countries like Hungary and some others, they're just much more, I guess, reasonable. They look at this much more objectively.
Oh,
In general, the specific issue.
I think that's the thing, because we have this perspective because we are actually not a part of the problem, like to the extent that that Germany or France or whatever other places, like we are not the target, so we have like a back seat and just just observe things, and we can be sure that it will never come here in this volume.
Right.
I think there were certain like migrants from Syria that tried living here and were given help, but they quickly came to the realization that they won't fit in here, that the language is very very hard, and that the amount of money isn't good, and they just either traveled further, like they
what they did is they probably went to Western Europe, where better welfare checks and everyone.
I think Poland is like a bus stop, like on the way to their destination.
Yeah,
I think it's everybody knows it, and
well, you're lucky in a way. I mean, I think
that's the general opinion. That's
well, I think the wages aren't as good, maybe, or certainly they're not as good as places like Germany or the Netherlands. But on the other hand, you don't get all the trash from the Middle East, so it's not a bad deal, really. I mean, it's not like you're leading bad lives there. So,
well, yeah, we don't. I think that my perspective can be skewed. Because I work in IT and we have very good money here, and
right.
It's like a magnitude bigger than that my friends.
Should I ask you the obligatory? Are you secretly affiliated with CD Projekt RED?
No, I intend to be at some point.
Okay, you're working towards that. Good. I think everyone who's played Witcher 3 the Witcher series in general is a huge. Well, I just think they're the best thing in the West as far as gaming companies are concerned.
That's a nice conversation to have, because I think that the gaming in Poland, in particular, was always PC centered, and everyone.
Well, I'd like to talk about that, but maybe continue with a bit with the politics. So that you're painting a very interesting situation. I think it's similar in other places like Hungary and Slovakia.
What I want to tell you also is that a very interesting situation that I observe, like in our city, which tends to be very liberal and pro all this, liberal stuff, like pro-choice and yada yada yada. Everyone among my associates and friends have pretty much the same opinion about the immigration crisis. They can agree on every liberal point that you see in the West, but the general consensus is like, migrants shouldn't come here. And
this is, I think, an interesting point. I suspect this is part of the legacy, or part to do with the legacy of communism. There was even if you're obviously quite young, but so you didn't grow up with it, but still, there's decades of a historical legacy that I think, without doubt, affected the population and the way people think. Also, historically, Poland was, I guess you could talk about the Polish Lithuanian Commonwealth, but in some sense, much more isolated than Western Europe, and I think all of these factors come into play. And as I said, that is a much more reasonable position. Where I live, I was just outside an hour ago, and the streets are just littered with Muslims and their 5,000 children, and I suspect that would not be something you'd see in Warsaw or
no, not really. We just don't see it. Like I don't. I think that there's a funny thing about the outsider's view of Poland, like the regular view that we are some kind of racists and anti-Semites. But frankly, I don't believe it because.
Well, even if you were, I think
if I were, I wouldn't have a target. Like I can't abuse someone that isn't here in the first place. So it would be just there was like this joke about recently. Like I went to a stand-up comedy for Eddie Izzard was playing like for the first time in our country, and he was like making jokes about transgenders and on the Middle East. That it's very hard because you already wear what the other gender wears. So. There's not a good environment here to be racist. We are like theoretical racists, like I guess.
Well, to me, racism, whatever, schmacism, it's just kind of common sense. I mean,
no, I think that this has to do with the internal biases that we have, like. People like what they have around them.
Well, it's useful. I mean, I remember Europe 20 years ago when I first started living here, and it did not look the way it looks now. Western Europe, of course. So I think, there are all kinds of arguments you could use, but the most practical argument is all these people from the Middle East bring virtually no benefit, and they bring a lot of burdens with them, and so you're dodging the metaphorical bullet by not allowing them in and not welcoming them.
We are dodging this bullet by not being developed enough to be attractive.
Well, you might get a lot of Western Europeans coming there soon.
If we were, then our policy would be the bullet dodge. But of course, over like last months, I followed a lot of proverbial right-wingers from states and so on, and I, for example, tend to agree to some extent with Ann Coulter, and she's
not really. Is she right-wing? I don't know. I mean, she's conservative.
I don't know. It's maybe the language isn't expressive enough. My language isn't expressive enough, but she wrote like the logical thing to say that if you import like the people from areas with problems, then you import these problems,
it's obvious, but for some reason, I don't think you understand just how toxic, and I don't mean the PC way. Just speaking your mind has become in the West.
I think I have an idea.
Well, yeah, the BSN still now not official. Because I made a joke about, the developers. I said, "Dem niggas," and the guy sends me 5 minutes later. I get a PM threatening to, report me to the moderator for I
think that there is this escalation of, because when you what I think that should happen if you see someone like using words that you are. That are uneasy, not easy for you to see and swallow, then you just can think that, well, this guy is a jackass. I shouldn't be affiliated with him. And now in the West and on social media and so on, if anyone says anything that could be offensive, then he is reported. He is reported and policed, and then the posts are getting deleted, and the person is being blocked. Like there's the social media are becoming this huge virtual police state. That's my opinion. That's my opinion on what I see.
Well,
and then it tends to drives people to self-policing, and I don't like that.
Well, no, this is why initially I don't want to talk too much about the BSN, or at least maybe later. Why I think the unofficial forums, I thought everything initially seemed a lot more relaxed. Like people weren't as uptight, and you hate this group, and you should. Until I got that message yesterday, and I thought, "Are you kidding me? You're actually sending me a PM threatening me, reporting me because I didn't even. I think I spelled it NGAZ. It wasn't even. It was obviously not serious, but the guy. I just thought, come on, man." But I think getting it, because I want to cover the EU as well before we move on to maybe more sort of gaming or media related stuff. So I know you obviously live in Poland, but Polish people, particularly in the United Kingdom, have created quite a kerfuffle, a sort of conflict. A lot of people feel that classic situation, they're sort of taking jobs or they're leeching off the system. What is your position on the European Union and Poland, and would you say, if it's not your position, the general position of Polish people within Poland regarding the European Union?
Regarding the EU, I think that my position would be just to be as pragmatic as you can. For me, obviously, every country has the right to put their citizens above the other, like migrants or the economic migrants. And we are as supreme beneficiary of the system. Nobody wants to leave the EU. There was everything you hear about this supposed Pole exit or whatever we call it is completely phony, because our latest polls opinion polls said that basically 80 or 70% would vote no, we are staying, regardless of their opinion on the political spectrum. There is no party opposed to EU, maybe just some fringe parties, but certainly not the biggest ones. You may know that Le Pen came out as being anti-Polish migrants, and it didn't gather any positive response here. Like we are not in our government isn't in the Le Pen camp or in Brexit camp. I think that we also overall opinion about Brexit, for example, was very negative, because a stronger EU means probably more money for us, which we tend to get a lot and use to a huge extent. And now I think that EU, as it undergoes an existential crisis, really, we want to keep it alive and drain it as long as it is going. But when you say about the slogans like "Are you pro integration? Are you pro something?" I don't really know. I'm for companies coming here and opening jobs here. I am kind of against getting the currency like we were supposed to years ago. We kept our currency.
I think that project is lost now. They're not.
Yes, I think that's it's something that politicians may smile and say, yeah, it will be there sometimes, but everybody knows that it's not going to happen, and this project is dead. But I don't travel right now.
Good for you.
I don't travel yet, so I don't experience this luxury of not being checked at the border so far, but I believe it's there. Well, as far as the British, our British enclave goes, I don't have any first-hand news from people there. Everyone I know who is in the UK, he's probably working for some huge IT company, because my faculty tends to have brilliant alumni that get there. And as far as those low-paid workers go, well, it's kind of sad that they need to work there. I would hope that the situation in my country improves enough so they can go back, go here. Everyone longs for their original country. When I was on student exchange, it was in Norway. Every Polish person, because there are lots of Poles there also. We are the biggest majority in Norway. And everyone who I spoke with, wanted to at some point come here, but the differences in earnings are so abysmally large. I won't experience it because I am in IT, and IT in Poland gets paid on basically European level. Maybe not, but it's close enough that I have a comfortable life and I can go to a restaurant on every weekend and not care about the tab. But the situation for other industries is very dire. Our health service it's a nightmare. Our administration is a nightmare. Education is as well. People can't just take those jobs and make a decent living that they deserve. That's why everyone is pro-EU, in a sense that they can migrate and earn what they basically should earn. Because I believe that our people in general are qualified enough. For example, I've spoken to many young doctors. They are very brilliant. They are very dedicated to mastering their craft, and with the kind of earnings they will make, it's really concerning. Young people don't have much to do here, and the EU lets them travel abroad. It lets them make a living, so they can also send money back. And I'm extremely lucky that I'm not in this situation. But as far as my opinion on the EU overall and our migrants there, well, I think my point is that UK or Norway or whatever country has any holy right to deal with our migrants and just take back their jobs for their people. But I won't cry that my people may take advantage of the situation, that they can make money that they can't do here.
Right. I mean, this is kind of in some way the sense.
I think that can be summarized that I would describe myself as greedy in regards to EU.
I think a lot of people are. I mean, I understand the argument because yeah, I mean, people I have dual nationality with Hungary, so I mean, a lot of Hungarians go to the United Kingdom too, because they can earn more there, Romanians, etc. I mean, it makes sense. But on the other hand, if the general push in Europe is going to move towards more and more sort of nationalism and a breakdown of the European Union, which I think it is slowly but surely, then I mean, yeah, you can milk the cow for as long as possible, but we're going to have to go home, and I'm including myself as well because I don't even want to stay in Germany that much longer. But it's just not going to be feasible anymore, and I think that's fine. I think Western Europe is. I don't really think the Central Europeans are as huge a problem as it's presented. Maybe I'm biased, but certainly it's a much smaller problem than the Middle Eastern migrant issue.
Well, of course. Well, there's this cultural clash. Right. And there's this cultural clash, and for example, I'm not a religious person, which is rare in Poland because, for example, all my best friends are religious. Sorry, I have a problem with pronunciating this, but I'm not a religious person. But I remember, like years ago, 1,000 years ago, or even more. That there was this discussion: should we, as European, have in our Euro constitution or wherever the sentence that we are that our culture is based on the Bible and Christianity? And back then, I was very early in my atheism. I was opposed to it, that it's terrible, that it shouldn't ever be written because religion is bad, yada yada yada. But now I'm more of a fan of facts. Like, this is just a fact that Western European culture was based on Christianity. That's our stone or piece of coal that you dig in before you set up the building. But it's not. I think it's not as established in this. It didn't pass. So this European Union is trying so much to not be affiliated with what is the source of European culture that it feels very artificial, and in a way that the culture that we are or we as European countries are originated from is so much different and so much better, I guess, than the Middle Eastern ones. When you have the conversation about human rights, and you can have a conversation about, I don't know, homosexuals' rights. You can't have those conversations in the Middle East. Just can't, because Islam and their governments just are abusive to those people in general sense. You can be a pro or anti or whatever here in Europe, but if you import hordes of
Muslims,
of people, Muslims, maybe Orthodox Muslims, I don't know. You just change the society to a more Muslim one, where in which the ghettos will emerge, or some sub-societies will emerge where people will have those views that are not European views, I guess. So that's my concern. That's why I think that immigration within European countries is less of a problem, and
here's the thing.
It's more of an economic issue, rather than social issue.
Precisely. I mean, the fact of the matter is, based on what I've seen, is that yes, the Poles are very. I mean, most people are like this, very sort of Polish-centric, and they spend time with each other in England, but. I have a friend in the UK. He's told me he's had Polish bricklayers and workers, and they're very reliable. They do good work. They're actually, I mean, yes, maybe the British aren't benefiting directly from it, but they are making economic contributions. I know people would say, well, that's not important. It's the fact that they're not British is a problem. But that really depends on your perspective. But I think I would agree with you that Central Eastern Europeans, generally speaking, Hungarians, Poles, are far less problematic than the hordes from the Middle East, because generally speaking, they are, making some sort of economic contribution, and they're certainly not as violent. And
that's the thing. That's the uneasy truth about this migration, that you have statistics for that. That the people that from this migrant wave from the last couple of years just don't contribute. They can't contribute because either they are not educated. I think that I recently saw a statistic that said that they are not fluent in their own language in the first place. Like, they are analphabets, some of them, and they can't really contribute, so they are just a burden, an economic burden. That's why I am opposed to them, to helping them here.
Well, and here's my issue as well, is that I think an arrangement with the European Union with labor mobility could have been worked out prior to the Middle Eastern migration crisis, because before all this stuff happened, I remember before there were hordes of North Africans and Middle Easterners and what have you, I'm sure there were discussions, and there was, of course, economic envy and all these things, but I think some arrangement could have been worked out. After this crisis hit, it's become much more difficult, because people aren't differentiating as much anymore. And they're just saying, well, the European Union's responsible for all of this. Well, yes, in part, that's true. But there is, I think we need, I'm not just saying this because I'm a Central Eastern European myself. I'm not just saying that. I'm just saying because it's a fact, there are economic contributions that can be made by people outside directly of Western Europe. Now, it's a separate argument. I know a lot of, some of my audience would argue, well, it doesn't matter, Britain for the British. Okay, I can respect that. But I think trying to, quote-unquote, fix the European Union, or at least make it more manageable in terms of labor mobility, I almost have a feeling that ship has sailed because of this mess, and you can't fix the mess now. They're everywhere.
Well, yeah, everywhere. Probably. Maybe Europe wasn't ready for this humanitarian crisis, they thought.
No, well, clearly not.
Well, yes, they weren't ready for it, and the system that was in place, turned out to be like venomous, and and turned this thing into a monster that you can't control. Basically.
Well, yeah, pretty much what happened, and now I think the EU will probably die a slow death. And the reason will be not because of the Poles or the Hungarians, but because Western Europe, the politicians.
No, I think that Western Europe politicians, they are very dogmatic about their.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They're very dogmatic. They are not flexible, and I think their actions, like they seem like those beings that live in an ivory tower. That
well, they do. It's like the guy I was talking with with Fennikis. You might remember him last night.
Yeah, I remember him from.
Yeah, because we still play MP sometimes, and I was.
It was good.
Yeah, he was saying to me, I bet the guy who PM'd you about not using the quote, I didn't even use that word, but the quote unquote N word, I bet he was white. Of course he is. You might actually know him. His name is J.R. Randall. Anyway, the people who, especially in the United States, I can tell you that the people who are most obsessed with all this diversity nonsense, they're usually upper class white people living in gated communities who've never seen a quote unquote minority in their life. I grew up in the semi ghetto in fucking Bronx, New York. I used to be the only white person on a train for years. They don't know anything about this stuff.
Yes, I know. It's kind of easier to be very dogmatic about tolerating or being open to everything when your connection with it is purely theoretical.
Like, and that's the thing. It drives me crazy. I mean,
from philosophical standpoint, I know that you should be nice to everyone and accepting to everyone, but the life doesn't work that way, sadly.
Well, you don't need to be hostile, but I mean, the fact is, I mean, we're moving slowly but surely towards the whole gaming BSN thing, but in general, the policies for Western Europe have been disastrous, and the common person, Fennicus included, I might add, although he's not very political, for example, he's French, is concerned about the state of affairs. I mean, France has been in bad shape for a long time, especially with regards to the Muslim problem.
But all the killings didn't help.
Well, no, but there are also these Muslim ghettos, and it's not it's not exactly a great situation. But
yeah, there's this funny app that it was a website. I don't remember how it was called, but it presented a very very peculiar phenomenon that it was about the formation of a ghetto and how you have had these dots on a grid representing persons. They were colored dots representing minorities, and you picked on the side a preference that the dots accept each dot can be surrounded by 8 others because they are on a grid, and you can like on a piece of paper with squares on it. So you picked how the preference of those dots, how many different dots than them they accept. Like, for example, the ideally not racist dot accepts like half of them. Half of the dots of different colors, and no matter how did you choose, the dots were grouping in their own clusters. That you I think that there were extreme cases that the dots really on this grid they aligned to be really mixed, but if there was even a slight preference to be around people that look like you and talk like you, which is ingrained in every human being, then the people cluster, and that's why when you import a certain amount of different colored people, they will start living in their own neighborhood, and where presumably as their struggle is greater.
I just want to point out to the audience something. I don't mean to interrupt, but you are someone who formerly on the left. I mean, the way he's talking, at least in Western media, he would be described as alt-right. But in fact, a Polish person.
That's my Polish.
Yeah, a Polish person who's I guess left of center. This seems to be a sort of common sense view. It's very strange how warped things have become in the West in general regarding this stuff. Probably. What you just said. If you were in the United States in particular, you would be called you'd be called everything.
Yes, but I know that I would, but probably that's because we are not afraid of logic here, I guess.
Well, I'd call it common sense. Yeah.
Yes, I know, and of course I wouldn't extrapolate my views to a common view of any bloke you meet on the street, but I know that in my ring of people, which are all educated and left-leaning, let's say, I wouldn't be booed. I wouldn't be called a racist because, everyone thinks that a racist is a guy who beats up a black guy on the street, not someone who has concerns about societal changes or effects of an influx of foreigners. it's like, I think that on the West, from what I've seen, there's a very low threshold of logic you can apply before you are called names, and there's the end of the conversation.
That's the thing, is that they also try to shut down a conversation. I think maybe in this regard, Poland is more old school, where you can talk to all kinds of people without necessarily sharing their views identically. I mean, I've had this on my channel. I talk to all kinds of people that I don't 100% agree with them, or I don't really have identical views, but it's okay. It's not the end of the world, and I can still have a conversation.
There are some people in the West that have this attitude that they can talk with people with opposing views. For example, my favorite guy, I think it's Dave Rubin, his Rubin Report.
Yeah, I mean he's better. I have some issues with him, but he's better. Yeah.
Well, I'm talking about his attitude. That's basically
he has a better attitude than a lot of people. That's definitely the case. Yes.
Well, if you, but maybe if it helps, because I heard that you just swallowed some psychological lemon. I think my views on core issues would align with this guy, in a way. But of course, I don't have other people's views.
I think Dave Rubin is very difficult to pin down, and I'll tell you why. Because he used to be far, far left, and he used to be associated and affiliated with the not so young Turks.
The young Turks are old guys.
They're the old Turks or whatever.
Old Turks,
and it's. I guess in some sense he's. Yes, you're right. He's definitely more open to talking about things, and he doesn't want to censor speech, and I think that's all great. I mean, I have my own biases regarding him, which are not really related to that, but
okay, well, basically just don't transfer those biases towards me, because I.
No. Look, I absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I'm not a fan, for example, that he's an Israeli fanatic and a Zionist. But that's generally speaking.
Oh yeah, that's that too.
Generally speaking, he's a lot better than most people in that category.
Right. Yeah.
And he's pretty mainstream, I guess. You know how much money he's making? He's making like $30,000 a month off of Patreon. So just Patreon.
Oh.
So he's definitely doing well.
Well, he has an audience.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that in some sense that's a good thing, because he does. At least he gives a platform to all kinds of people, and I guess I'll give Dave Rubin credit in one area, and that's that he's very. He kind of just sits there and listens. He's not always arguing with people. And if you're going to have a guest come on over to that shithole of Los Angeles and spend lots of money flying there, then that's probably a good policy. So there are some people like that, and of course the internet is filled, particularly YouTube, with people who are kind of more open to talking. But I think the difference between your typical Polish person, or I don't know if you're typical, but somebody who represents perhaps a more mainstream Polish opinion as you do, is that very few of these people, including Dave Rubin, I think, and other people who are on YouTube, have the metaphorical balls just to say, yeah, we don't want more of these people here, period. They'll kind of dance around the issue. And I think that's a critical difference between, say, maybe a Polish attitude and what a Dave Rubin might do. I don't know how much you follow YouTube. Hopefully you don't, because it's a waste of time. But a guy like Sargon of Akkad, I don't know if you've heard of him.
Well, yeah, I follow him.
Oh, okay. Well,
I follow him.
Right.
I'm aware of those personalities. Some of them I enjoy, some of them I don't.
Right.
As far as Sargon goes, I know he even made a replay video for you, and I just was taken out of it. Whoa! So Stardust came up. Who knew?
Right.
But
well, I don't think he would say the same things you did. He wouldn't say, people. He wouldn't describe the problem as precisely as you did. I don't think so.
Well, maybe it comes from the level of familiarity with the English language, because I just I'm constantly thinking what to say. So I maybe
I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think it's the fact that
I basically try to get to the point.
Well, this is great.
Not cover, not drift away from the issue.
I mean, I'll give you an example. How many of these people would just say, first off, we don't want Islam in Europe, number one, period. And we certainly don't want more Muslims, because that's my position, and that would probably be yours. And that might be Sargon's position, but he would never say it that way. He would probably take an hour to sort of dance around it, and has nothing to do, I mean, you speak English quite well, it's nothing to do with English or not. It's just that these people are just a lot less direct about these issues. Yeah.
Well, I think that it's the core source of this is like I can do all the semantics and rhetorics quite well, but in a way, at the end of the day, you have only the fact, the core simple fact, which can be summarized in a few words. And then you can put your rationale to it and give all the your rationale. But if you have a large audience, then you may find that giving it your opinion straight away isn't the way to go. I think that maybe that's why you first need to have this foreplay of giving all the context and whatnot, just so the people won't switch you off.
I agree with that. Yeah.
But it's not like I think that I could give like some controversial opinions, which aren't as controversial here, and give them a more of a Sargon flavor. But I don't know. I think that if you give some of this rhetorical foreplay, and you can spice it up with some jokes and allegories, and it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world.
Well, no, but I do consider it a waste of time. It's better just to speak
maybe, yeah,
and be quick about it than spend an hour talking about all kinds of secondary things or sort of related things, and then say, maybe it's not a good idea that blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah. But that's just my take. I tend to be, I guess, more direct, and I don't really have patience for the Sargon method. I certainly don't have patience for the political correctness. I mean, when that guy sent me that PM, I flipped my lid. I couldn't believe I had speech policing on an unofficial, anyway. But I mean, we can, I guess, use this point to shift into the whole gaming culture, literally PC gaming, but not just that. The fact that Bioware, I mean, you're Polish, and CD Projekt RED is Polish.
You know, it's a funny thing, because how CD Projekt started, they started as a publisher. They started as a publisher, and the cornerstone of every GOG. Well, it's their subsidiary right now, but it's younger. But CD Projekt itself, before CD Projekt RED, they were a publisher, and the cornerstone of every Polish gamer are Baldur's Gate and Planescape Torment and all this stuff, because CD Projekt, they translated them and they hired high-profile actors to do their voices, and it was like amazing, and everyone knew each one of these games by heart, and that's how CD Projekt RED, I presume, was formed because of love. These games, these Baldur's Gate,
and this
Saga,
really shines through. I mean, to this day, it's there's something about. I mean, obviously, half the audience might turn away now because they might not be gamers. But I think when you talk about Poland, you got to talk, at least with a fellow gamer, you got to talk about CD Projekt RED. That they really just seem dedicated to their craft in a way that I can't really think of any other Western company anymore. I mean, let's be honest about Bioware, Mass Effect, Andromeda, for example. I'm trying to slog my way through the single player. I play a little bit every day, but
I didn't spend my money on it. So
you did. Okay.
No, I didn't buy it. I just I feel like I dodged a bullet. I remember that the previous game, like Inquisition, I couldn't make through it.
Right.
And then all this drama happened with. Well, for me it started with like my first impression that I got of I'm not buying it was with the first trailer, which dropped some kind of Avengers vibe, like I don't need an army, I have a Krog, and it was for me it was like too Michael Bay to buy. And then, well, of course, all the bugs happened and all the animation drama, and then I just felt I will wait until they fix it, or
until it becomes worth $5 on sale, yeah,
or it's in a bargain bin. Then I may buy it, but
so
I want.
You're just trolling the forums. You don't even have the game. You just post.
No, I don't. I repeatedly say that I don't have the game, and I don't think I'm trolling enough. But it's a very easy to hate on something like without giving it a.
Well, I can tell you, I've been struggling.
I don't remember my last post where I was bashing Mass Effect Andromeda.
No, I meant that you're sort of on the forums without actually having the game.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am, because I enjoy the people, and it doesn't take much of my time.
Right. Well, okay. I mean, I can testify to the problems. I'm really struggling to get through. I can't think of a single thing that actually impresses me. Initially, the whole profile things did, but the combat actually becomes very boring. So scratch that.
It's like I don't. When I was looking on the development of this game, there were numerous issues that were not even connected to the programming issues, like bugs or so on. Like basically, if you have this paradigm that we move for whatever reason out of our cozy Milky Way, and we are exploring otherworldly planets, then I expect what I expected. Like, they want to have a clean slate, want to have a fresh start. So I guess I would need a lot of very alien aliens that have imaginative designs, and they don't feel like they would belong here. And of course, for various reasons, you have basically a game that could take place in Milky Way altogether. Just why this cluster is like 600 years away, aside from escaping the continuity of trilogy, whatever.
Well, they dug a grave. They dug themselves into the grave when they abandoned.
In a way, I'm happy that this Andromeda thing happened the way it happened, because I can just watch it from the backseat and watch people like convince themselves that it's not so bad, and or maybe it's not even as bad of a game, but as a continuation of the franchise, I think it's bad, and I can just chat with people and see what happens next for the company, because I felt very strongly at times about Bioware, and because they made all the games that were like basically the instant classics that we all love in Poland.
Well, I think, Stysiak, the problem here, if I might just interject briefly, is that Bioware is dead. It's kind of like it's kind of like looking at the glory of the Roman Empire, looking at Italy and associating that with Rome 2,000 years ago. Like, wow, that's really impressive.
Well, I think that watching it, it's for me, it's more of a Schadenfreude because you have this company which was revered, and now all that's left is their kind of prestigious brand. Like they have a name, and now all the companies everywhere around, they are making like games that excel at what they used to excel in, like storytelling and whatnot. And of course, there's this CD Projekt RED that changed the expectations of the RPG genre altogether with the Witcher series. And well, it's funny to see them struggle, but I think that for me, the day that this old company died was when, well, the founders left, like 5 years ago or 4 years ago, I don't remember.
Even Casey Hudson, as bad as the ending was, I still think he was an important part of what Mass Effect was.
Probably, but he was. Yeah. Who cares?
Well, I guess. I mean, Mass Effect's kind of dead now. But let's talk about CD Projekt RED, because CD Projekt RED is I mean, I don't think Witcher 3 was a perfect game, and certainly Witcher 2 wasn't, but I think CD Projekt RED
diving hundreds of times in the waters around those islands for just another chest because I have OCD and there was this question mark on the map wasn't fun. So it wasn't.
Well, no, and I think the combat could have been better, but overall, it was a great game. And CD Projekt RED, maybe it's because they're based and they're Polish, doesn't care about all of this politically correct nonsense.
You are what I think you have ability to create what you have experienced in it. So experience in life. So when you have this our setting that I think no, I'll put it in another way. You have this Witcher series, which is a translation of a beloved fantasy series.
How popular is the series in Poland, by the way, the books?
Well, it's something that everyone read, basically, like everyone. Yeah. Everyone knows who's Geralt, everyone knows who's Ciri, and it transcends age, I think, gender, of course, because all the girls also know. And you have this world that you can't really play with, because the CD Projekt, like, they made a game which would sell here, and the first which are sold here, like, massively. It was a success beyond measure when you have the reality of our market, and it was also very popular in Russia, I think. And you can't play around with something that you want to be faithful to. Like, you don't feel, I think, and I think that CD Projekt didn't think for a second about it, that you need to have some quota of minorities that you need to fill, because it's not in the world in the first place,
right.
and nobody cares in your core audience in the second place, and you probably never met many minorities. There's no significant racial minorities in Poland. They don't have any lobbyists, or they are in the voting bloc that you need to pander to or something.
Right.
You don't think about those things, so they weren't in the game. And then I guess that I don't know. The second Witcher wasn't also didn't have any drama about it because it still wasn't that high profile game. I guess it was big, but it wasn't like guarantees game of the year big. Like you have this industry giving all these awards like ex cathedra to Bethesda or whatever, or Bioware, for instance. But with the third game, suddenly, because it was very good and everyone enjoyed it and were amazed how good open world it is and how graphics are amazing and so on and so forth, suddenly those busybodies, like, they woke up and said, "Whoa, there are no brown people here. What's the matter? It looks like a Western game, but it doesn't quack like a Western game. What's the matter?" And it was funny to watch because it's like when CD Projekt who created this game, I feel that when they create games, they care about the consistency of their world, the logic of their world, and nobody even thinks about throwing a bone to some loudmouths on Twitter. Well, you can, and I don't even think that it's such a bad thing to pander to different minorities. But if it was made in, like, if it was tasteful, like if it was natural in the reality of the game, because I'm fresh off like Horizon Zero Dawn, and it was so black, it was so crudely crafted. Like, you have this tribal society.
Is that the dinosaur, or the mechanical dinosaur?
Yeah,
you play on console? I'm shocked.
Since I started working, I have a PC also, and I mostly play on PC. But as much as I started working in IT and making good money, I thought that I will like make my kids' dream come true and have like a huge TV with a modern console. And I was interested. Like, I'm interested in becoming a game developer at some point, and to be it, you have to like know what's up in this industry. And since I could afford it, I bought the Robo Dinosaurs game,
right? And
it was okay, I guess. But when you have this world, it's almost funny how crude and blatant about this and about this stuff it is. You have, for example, let's say you are a Western developer and you think that your game, or you're a project lead, I don't know who decides about this stuff, but you have an agenda that there should be some nice gay people there. Okay, so that's your starting point. And what Horizon Zero Dawn has, and of course, as you are an atheist liberal, probably you say you want to make a point that religion is bad and kills people. So how you do it, and Horizon Zero Dawn accomplishes it by giving you a quest that makes you travel to some place of worship, and there's this guy who tells you that this priest won't let me see this statue, and it turns out that this guy is gay and his lover made this statue, and then there's this priest which is like comically evil and says that it's forbidden for everyone to visit the statue. So it was so I like to say that it has as much finesse as if wrecking someone's car with a baseball bat was a martial art. Like I
hadn't realized that game was infected too. I don't.
Well, it's not infected. It's like the starting point is like this. Everything makes sense, but this agenda
I meant by that the agenda infects games.
The agenda that every minority on the pedestal and on the high horse of morality. It is certainly there. I don't think that why should I like try to hide that it is there. I enjoyed the game overall, but it was very comical to see, for example, like how do you portray a black woman being good? Then you stumble upon her and she is like giving out bread to some dirty children. And of course she is wearing some kind of veil, so as she was a sane Muslim or something. So it's funny to see, really, and it's like quite pathetic. It sticks out like a sore thumb if it's done this way. So it's really
but the thing is here is that once again this just reflects the fact that Poland is kind of based, as they say these days, or just sort of Polish people are just sort of more grounded in reality. You know, I don't even recognize this stuff. I haven't lived in the United States in literally decades, but it certainly wasn't if it was as pronounced back then, you didn't really notice it quite as much. I mean, sure, there was political correctness, but the media has really turned it into a fever, and now it affects everything. I mean, that's why, in some sense, talking about political correctness in gaming is related to these issues affecting the EU, just because it's everywhere.
Well, yeah, you can see this message that everything is political. Like, for example, there is this YouTube channel. It's about gaming. I think it's annoying more than helpful, but it's called Extra Credits. And they put up the video, can you avoid politics in video games? And the answer was flat, no, every game is political, like, yada, yada, yada. I think that there is a significant lack of modern, like, high-profile games that are just, don't try to be political statements. That you have this, for example, Dragon Age or all the Bioware games, and they all want to be a part of the conversation about society and whatnot. And it's tiring. It's tiresome for me.
It is for me, for sure.
Because some people just want to sit on the couch or armchair in front of their PC and enjoy the gameplay. And now suddenly you have this GDC, like game developer conference, with the viral slide which says every game is political. It's ridiculous. Like, I have, as if I want to start my own project, like try to do something in my free time when I'm not in the office, game related. Like, I want to have some experience before I go to the interview, and I won't be thinking about what politics I want to put in my game. It's like,
here's the thing, man. Of course, games are political. The Witcher world is heavily political, but it's the politics within the game. It's nothing to do with the
world.
Right. It's the world. And
for example, in the first Witcher, I think it was more prevalent than in the subsequent games, but there was this whole issue of racism against non-humans. But it wasn't. They weren't drawing a parallel between their world.
It was a condition of the world. Yeah.
Yes, it was a condition of the world, and you can put politics in.
And that's interesting in that world. It's just that there's not an agenda driving CD Projekt RED saying, how will we draw the parallels? There always will be parallels, just because we have to draw upon our realities to some extent to create new worlds.
Yes.
But it's not intentional, and it's not forced upon you in the same sense that Bioware and these other companies are doing. Which is just annoying. Yeah.
For example, if in a fictional tomorrow another Bioware game dropped, I am sure, for example, I snap my fingers and here's another Bioware games, I'm sure that they would put a fictional Donald Trump in it because they are so based on the real world that they can't escape it. They can't craft fictional politics, they can't craft fictional worlds. I think that the many developers can't be just game developers anymore, and it has to do, of course, with social media. Everyone's on Twitter now, and everyone's political opinions are there, out there. Nobody is anonymous anymore. I can't just enjoy, for example, some actors acting in a movie because I have access to his politics, basically, and now I don't have I can't have separate views basically about someone's craftsmanship or work and have it cut off.
No, you can. I mean, you can admire a person's acting or art. I mean, they're for example, I appreciate Robert De Niro's acting, but I'm not a huge fan of his politics. I mean, it's entirely possible.
Likewise, yes, but in a couple of years ago, you just didn't have the possibility to be annoyed by someone's personal views because they weren't out there in the open.
That's the internet.
Yes, that's the internet. The internet turned everyone also to pundit, I guess. And
I created a word for this, the know-it-allism of our time. Everybody knows everything because they have a tablet or an iPhone or the internet. So they're an authority on everything, or at least they believe they are. I've talked about this before on my channel. I don't like this tendency because I'm very I try to be careful in talking about things. It's why I would never upload a video about manufacturing a car. I don't know anything about that. But everyone seems to have an opinion on this sort of thing, and it's really annoying. You see it on the Bioware forums. I mean, that's always been Bioware, I guess. But it's a shame, and I don't think it's going to go away, unfortunately. But my concern, I could actually deal with all of that, but the fact that that's sort of infected game developers, many of them, obviously not CD Projekt RED, bothers me because you have this stuff that they're just bending over backwards to make sure everyone feels inclusive or whatever. I mean, look at the presets for Mass Effect Andromeda, the facial. It was stuff like that.
I don't know, man, because I heard rumors that some people were concerned about as if they were afraid of having an attractive people, attractive digital people to be presets. There were these rumors, and I think I tend not to believe them to an extent. I think that it's I still believe it was pure incompetence, but
it's quite possible. That game, I can't believe I paid for it sometimes. I did say, though, that it would be my last pre-order ever, just because, for Bioware at least, because it's just...
Well, my last was the third one, like Mass Effect 3. It was too much to handle for me to be... I'm thankful for Bioware for disenchanting me from the fanboy mindset. Sorry.
Well, I've never was a fanboy. I just appreciated the old games.
I guess I was a fanboy at some point. No, not anymore, though.
Well, you're older. It makes sense.
Yeah, I think that people naturally grow out of it.
Yeah.
But philosophically, I think I'm not okay with pre-ordering things. Like, I don't like giving someone on my money on a premise that he will deliver. That's why I never, for example, crowdfunded anything. Like, I didn't join any crowdfunding campaign, even if I was excited about the product.
Well, take a game like Pillars of Eternity and a few others.
I bought that.
Yeah, which I thought was a pretty... I mean, there were definitely flaws, but I think overall it was a good game.
It was good as far as the Kickstarter projects go. Yeah,
yes.
It was. They also had this ridiculous like PR crisis with this transgender like letter. It was a tombstone. Yeah, a tombstone, which was offensive to a theoretical transgender who would play this game and click this tombstone and read it and, I don't know, weep for a day. Because everyone knows that transgender people are so psychologically weak that they can't handle written words.
Right.
Especially like it was a rhymed
But here's the thing, dude, and here's the dilemma, is that increasingly in the gaming world, if the only people we can rely on are CD Projekt RED, and, because I think that's becoming more and more accurate, then as far as the deep, rich RPGs are concerned, then crowdfunding becomes a necessity to some degree, even if I agree with you, there's no guarantee they can deliver on the promise. But what other options are there in a world with Bioware and Ubi shit and all these other companies?
I don't know. Well, Japanese don't give a shit.
I've never been able to get into the Japanese kind of genre thing, though, for myself.
Right now I'm playing this Nier Automata.
I've heard a lot of good things about that game.
It's a very good game. And I guess it even transcends the ridiculous anime setting. I guess it's good enough. Like, it was very refreshing for me to play it, and I am not into Japanese culture at all. But I just experience like pure gameplay. Like the story is there and it's interesting on its own merits. Right. It's just fiction. It's just fictional setting where humanity is created by the machines that push them off the earth and the remnants are on the moon and they are launching a counter-offensive, and it's interesting in its own right. It's like playing one of the older games where you collect some pieces of information about this world, and the designs are very good. Like, I don't like the main character as much because it's like a ridiculously sexy goth chick, but regardless, it's a good design. Like, I know how this character looks immediately, and she has this corny name, like, because she's an android, she has a philosophical name, to be, like number 2 and letter B, but for example, it's a very refreshing experience after this Horizon Zero Dawn, which was fairly basic design, like stale design from Far Cry 3, but nicer, and which had this setting that just was very celebrating itself with this comical black and white morality, I guess. But so I think that Japanese developers, as much as they are niche and they are not very popular, they are out of this conversation about being inclusive and so.
Oh yes, the
so
Japanese
on.
don't care about that in their politics either. So
I think that Asian people in general are allowed to be racist to each other. I think that I heard that they are.
Oh, I lived in East Asia for over 2 years. Yes, I was.
East Asia hates each other's guts.
Well, it's not just that. I remember people would walk up to me on the street and touch my face and my skin and stare at my eyes because I had light eyes and they had never seen it. It was very. I never really interpreted it as racism, but obviously I was an oddity. I was strange to them. But certainly sometimes I was treated differently, and I just think that's kind of normal. So
probably. Well, but in Europe, I don't know which I think as far as the crowdfunding goes, yeah, maybe it is the answer or a part of the answer. For example, I think that the game I enjoy, Darkest Dungeon, it was crowdfunded, and it is purely gameplay, and you can just enjoy how it plays, not being concerned with, for example, stumbling in a dungeon on a skeleton which tells you that he was transgender and that's why he killed his master or something like that. I think that's the level of subtlety that you can expect from Bioware or something like that, and with their infamous I switched galaxies, switched sexes, and
well, I have a theory. I actually have a theory about this, and I think it would apply to the political as well as just the purely gaming aspect related to things. I think there's going to come a stage where people are just going to get so tired of it, and I think many of us are. I've been tired of it for years, but other people will move in that direction too, and they're just not going to pay attention anymore. Because ultimately, I've argued this for a long time. Giving these people the attention they want is part of the problem. If developers just go on and make good games, and the customers buy them, I mean, it doesn't matter if the PC police are going to care or not.
I think that if for example CD Projekt makes their next game, well, it's Cyberpunk, so so probably there won't be like an issue with having all the races, because all the races are a part of Cyberpunk. I remember reading the textbook on it, so I don't know how to call those books you learn RPG systems from. But anyway,
manuals, yes.
Manuals. Thank you. So I remember reading this manual, and it said it had all these minority characters, and I think that the creator is a black guy, so it won't have this. I think they will be covered there. There won't be articles, it's too white or something, but it will be interesting. Like now that CD Projekt is expected to deliver a great game, all those bloggers like on Kotaku and Polygon and Rock Paper Shotgun, will they be just sharpening their knives to bring down this company and just find an angle which this game won't be politically satisfying? I think that there's this tendency that those people who I think pretend to care about this stuff because they just want to write clickbaity articles in the first place, and now it's like very.
But the thing about Cyberpunk, which I actually played as a pen and paper, the guy Pondsmith, Mike, you're right, he is black, he's very black, but he's not the kind of guy who runs around. it's like he's black, and he makes role-playing games and writes books. So what? He's not the guy say, "Look at me, I'm black. I make role-playing games." That's not the kind of guy he is.
He's a creator. Like he is a creative mind. He cares about his creation being good.
Yeah.
And not about his and I was just saying that, making the point that probably a CD Projekt will be faithful to the source material and the intellectual property of this guy.
Yeah.
That they will just make a game where characters will be of all the backgrounds and so on and so forth. I'm just saying that when you have this intellectual property, which you craft with the core thought in mind that it must be good, that it must make sense, that it must be consistent, and not just like running around with a checkbox for all the fashionable social issues of the day, then you can have quality. Like even if in this Horizon Zero Dawn there was enough enough quality, I guess, when it comes to world building, that it made me like it was hard to swallow, but I swallowed all this blatant pandering that was certainly there. But I think I lost my track of thoughts. I don't know where I started.
Yeah, I mean, the point is that I think we were talking about is that the creator is black. Who fucking cares? If he made a good product, that's nice. And nobody. And look, I could imagine, maybe Cyberpunk 2077 is a really good game. I hope so. I actually will pre-order that just because I have what you could call faith in CD Projekt RED. I guess.
I don't know when it's coming out, but
sometime next year, or maybe 2019. So if I'm still alive, or we're still alive, then
I probably won't be able to be hired by then and have a free access to it. But
and I think nobody. I think if it's successful and Mike Pondsmith gets gets notoriety or fame, or he just becomes well known, and nobody. Well, I think he would. I don't know him personally. My impression, based on I know his role playing games and some of his books, is that if people said, "Oh, look, he's black," he would dismiss it and just say, "Can you just get on with the story or whatever?"
Those all these clickbaity bloggers and so on. They are just starved they crave confirmation of their agenda.
Yeah,
like they want to celebrate every minority like in a probably very exaggerated way. So let's say that CD Projekt makes this game,
right,
and it's successful, and everybody loves it. So I'm quite certain that if it was today, I don't know what will come next year or in or half year from now. But if it was today, then I would have like 5 BuzzFeed articles that would say, "Oh, this black guy created like an most amazing RPG system ever. What times are these to well, basically those people who think, I guess, that they are fighting for the right cause, they sometimes reduce people's success to just celebrate their traits which they don't have really control over, and that's
or the unimportant. I mean, in the context of Cyberpunk, it's not important that Pondsmith is black, white, or red. The point is that he made a good product, and hopefully CD Projekt RED will make a good game, and we can all thank him for that, and we can get on with our day. I don't really see the point in obsessing with people's identity as a point of origin
Oh,
or
yeah.
a part of creation.
Yeah, you do, well, because it's not really important if you are talking about like meritocratic society where only your skill and education and or even basically skill decides which product is successful and which is not. I tend to see this that in the West and this mainstream journalism, they don't want to be meritocratic. They are all about some artificial fairness that isn't really what creates good products and good games.
That's accurate, absolutely. I mean, that's the whole welfare system and affirmative action in the United States. It's the kind of thought that's really dominated. It's interesting. I mean, I don't want to go too much on a tangent, but if you look at things in the United States with regards to the so-called black community, black people, that black achievement was actually much greater and higher before they introduced things like affirmative action and the welfare state in the United States. It's well documented. It wasn't tremendously better, but it was better. So it really has been counterproductive. It's certainly counterproductive in any creative endeavor where you're trying to make a good product. But I think we will reach a point in time which I would call sort of oversaturation, where people will become, even the people who follow this shit, like J.R. Randall at BSN, who are speech policing and tone policing. They're going to realize that how insane things have become, because they're going to be in a conversation and they're going to be suffering from a neurosis because they're I can't say that. Oh, but what if I say that? They're going to feel paralyzed, basically, kind of like a political paralysis.
Well, yeah. My point was always this, that like, I don't think that there should be much policing of any kind of speech. Like, you should have information out there, and then I can make my opinion about, for example, a person like posting something that I don't agree with.
Yeah.
And when you have this environment in which some words will just make you a persona non grata, then you don't really have the real conversation. That's why for example, from time to time appreciate walking on chance to where you are anonymous, and everything that is about you are your words. Like, there is no online persona you are trying to create. And just like on BSN, I want to make some jokes, like be a funny guy or whatever. And there is an avatar, there's a username, there's some count of likes on BSN, and you have this persona, like you need to maintain, or this is the guy who posts videos, or this is the guy who posts guides for things, or this is the guy who is very good at this game. We should just listen to him. And if you have when you have all these personality all over this web forums, you tend to police yourself just because you need to maintain your persona, I guess. And I think that it's much worse if it's also moderated heavily. And I appreciate, like, for example, this new BSN, because it isn't as heavily moderated. I think I've seen like 2 threads closed or something like that. Like, basically not magnitude less than I've seen on the classic Ding Dong banner. BSN, like where you just knew that you can't be over critical or just start a thread to vent yourself because it will just be locked down and thrown away, and you will probably suffer a ban for a day or two because why not? But for example, because this forum isn't as heavily moderated, maybe because maybe it's the reason why someone felt that it is his duty to police other people, like to care, like because there's this overall atmosphere on social media, especially in the West, that you need to have some moderation, that you need to shut down some points of view, that some points of view are dangerous, that words are unexcusable, leading to action.
Is, it wasn't even the guy who wanted to report. It wasn't even a point of view, and I'm trying to remember what I wrote. I said something, or I wrote something, and I spelled it differently. I said, "Oh, damn niggas," referring to the damn niggas is tripping. Well, okay. I mean, that's not even. It's just nonsense. It's just a bunch of nonsense.
Well, you should write him back that you identify as black, and the race is social construct and yada yada yada. And
I didn't bother giving people. I think engaging with these people helps them to feel justified in their position, and also helps them feel empowered. I was, but yeah, I mean, I agree with you, but it's also because people like that. They live in their little kind of safe space, and if they see anything that is foreign to that or alien in terms of language or vocabulary, they immediately have to single it out, because I guess nobody in his circle of friends would make jokes using the term, like niggas or whatever. I mean, obviously I'm not serious, but I'll make jokes about stuff like that. I mean, it's not a big deal to me. So I think it's just that they want to keep themselves isolated more than anything else, because you're right, BSN now in its current incarnation is not as bad as it used to be. It used to be filled with SJWs and concern trolls, and now it's pretty fluid. Like, he's the only person that gave me shit for that. Nobody, in fact, some of them were sort of playing along with a joke. They're like, "Oh, you should have spelled explosions and stuff." I mean. But there are people like that, but I think they're increasingly a minority. I think the reason why BSN unofficial is somewhat successful, not in its entirety, at least on multiplayer, because people are tired of the tone policing. People are tired of being afraid to say things and on the internet of other places.
I think there is some kind of a pushback. Like right now, people. And all over the place, they are realizing how stupid it is to tone police everything. That to care, always care, and be alert that someone may have said something not in a wrong tone. And basically, when you think about it from the bigger perspective, I guess that words, like especially online, they don't have much value. Like everything. For example, I think that the internet, I think it taught me is how short is the lifespan of an opinion or a post, and in a way it has an infinite lifespan, but when you are talking about for example, things that go viral, they are viral for a day, or how quickly things get old on the internet.
Right.
And it's so fast, it has so rapid pace that you shouldn't probably be so much concerned about some couple of words that you can see, and you just will see it for a couple of seconds and probably not care the next day. And I think I've made my point here.
Yeah. I think and I think unfortunately, I think the West needs more young people like you in some sense, because whatever your political views are, I think it's imperative that people are sort of able to get along. I personally think I'm pretty black-pilled about this stuff. I think the West is kind of finished in the sense that things have changed in the West so much, particularly with regards to Islam and issues of demographics, that it's not feasible to fix it anymore unless you were to do something incredibly drastic and possibly violent. I'm not suggesting that we should do that, by the way, in case somebody heard that.
Okay.
But the point is, I've had discussions with people, paying off Muslims to leave, and none of this is going to work, I think. So increasingly,
are you afraid that ethnic cleansing will happen in our lifetime?
I think because. See, there's an irony at play here, in my view of history and what's going on, is that all these far-left liberal people who are afraid to talk about these issues, who are afraid to elect people like Le Pen, or in the case of the Netherlands, Geert Wilders, I mean, these people, I've said this on my channel, my subs are probably tired of it, but I think they're moderates. And if you push people into a corner long enough, if things on the societal level change fundamentally, and you get to the point where you can't even go out on the street without feeling, you're in danger, or it's just not safe, or every time you walk around the corner, you're reminded of how not so great Islam is. People will get desperate, and historically, when times are tough or when bad things happen, people turn to extreme positions, and they don't really care about the consequences. So there's an irony, I think, at play here, that all these people who are pushing for this nonsense and trying to maintain it and claiming that everything is fine, we could end up in a situation, maybe it'll be 10 years, 20, maybe 30, I don't know. I'm not saying it will happen, but it's a possibility, where the shit really hits the fan, and you get something, maybe not like World War II or whatever, but something where you have legitimate violence.
I guess it is certainly a possibility that it won't, for example, happen in big cities, but I think that, for example, in France,
it could happen.
For
in
example,
big cities.
France, maybe, but I think that there is a possibility that this tipping point will be achieved, like in places like Calais.
France is fertile ground, and I'll tell you why. There's already a group called Génération Identitaire, the identitarian generation. There are these groups popping up that are very, obsessed with ethnic politics and stuff like that. And I think you'll increasingly get more and more of that, because there's a kind of silent majority that might not be obsessed with the ethnic politics, but they are worried about the social integrity of France. I know from conversations with Fennicus, for example, about, he's really big on the sort of the secular state of France and the history, and fair enough. The fact that there's a consistent violation of that vis-a-vis Islam and some other groups, well, that kind of bothers them. And so I think there's going to be build-up. And some people maybe they don't identify with Génération Identitaire, but it won't really matter, because that group, or whatever group is similar, represents the only group that is taking their concerns into account and saying, well, we can offer quote unquote solutions. Now, historically, there are no solutions; they're just trade-offs. So you could end up with something really bad, but at least some issue would be addressed. At least that's how they would feel. France is fertile ground for this, I think, more than any other country, because they have the biggest. They have these Muslim ghettos. They have the trucks of peace. Well, Europe in general has the trucks of peace. And so it would be where it would start. I think Germany probably would be the last place, just because of people's history or obsession with this stuff.
Maybe.
But it definitely could happen. Now, I think you're going to see a breakdown in Western Europe, and I think you're actually going to see a lot of people in Western Europe either. Well, maybe they'll head to the Eastern countries as long as the EU is still intact. I mean, the wages won't be there, but at least it'll be safe and it'll be a reasonable place to live. And I think, you know, maybe.
So yeah, so you're a pessimist.
Oh, I'm not a pessimist. I'm just, as they say, black pill. I mean,
you're expecting the worst to happen.
Well, I know. You know, I live in a reasonably sized German city, and everywhere I look, there's Islam. There are mosques. There are special Islamic clothing shops. There are, I mean, everywhere you look. And, you know, I'm not particularly obsessed by race, but, you know, you just look on the streets and, you know, you're...
Okay, so yeah. It's prevalent, but it doesn't matter what you as an individual think.
No, it doesn't matter at all, you're right.
But what does the general public in Germany think? And
well, since I'm not German, I can say, but I'm very well familiar with German history.
Oh,
the public, well, they stick their head in the sand, of course. I mean, you can see it. You have, for example, in my neighborhood, very clear-cut ethnic divisions. I mean, you have these sort of upscale, white, kind of, they call them Biomärkte, organic markets, right? And you'll almost never see a quote-unquote non-white person there. You'll also only see mostly Germans. And then you go to a place like a Turkish restaurant, or it's like more like an eatery, I don't know, or one of these Arab places, and you'll sometimes see Germans there, but you know, it's mostly people of their kind. And so I think Germans in particular are very good at just sticking their heads in the sand, and that's what they've done. They're sort of just ignoring the problem as long as possible, and they don't want to acknowledge it. Now, there may be good historical reasons for that, but the point is that you can ignore a problem if it's possible, but at some point in time it will engulf you. And so I think it's just a matter of time till all of this religious and ethnic diversity is going to just drive people absolutely insane. I don't really want to be here by then. Hopefully I'll be in Hungary by then, because Hungary has a similar policy to Poland in this regard. I think the West is going to fall apart. And yeah.
But you think that the source of this falling apart will be people like presumably whites getting angry and going at those zones where the Middle Eastern people
it is a possibility. Alternatively, the European population could be so masochistic that they just there are these people. I was watching a Dutch politician the other day. A guy I know sent me a link, and this guy, it was a 2-minute speech, and I didn't count, but it must have been 20 times said, "Europe will be diverse. We need diversity.
Oh, yes.
The world is diverse." And he just kept on. Is this your new religion? It seems like a religion because he was repeating. It was like a prayer book.
Yeah.
Diversity.
Sounds
diversity.
like fun.
And I think people I think people like to just sort of keep their head in the sands, in generally speaking. My impression is that lots of people are not very political. So you and I are both acquainted with a Dutch girl. You know what I'm talking about. Now she's not very political, but on the one hand, but my impression, based on a few conversations I've had with her, is that she's not a big fan of what's been happening in the Netherlands. Now, a lot of people during the American election regarding Trump, they didn't go to the street or the pub or the office to say, "Hey guys, I'm voting for Trump." No, they kept silent, and when it came to the election, they voted for Trump. And I have mixed opinions of Trump, but still, what you could end up with is a kind of silent class of people who don't openly talk about these things, but are still, worried about some of the issues.
Well, of course, you have some when some ideas are not mainstream or they are not on the pedestal put on the pedestal by the mainstream media. Some people will just shut up and not tell anyone who are they voting for, or just lie about it. Well,
Yeah.
lies are cheap, and of course, well, when you see someone as demonized as Trump or Le Pen or something like this, there's just so much his or her supporter can take before just saying that I'm not voting for this lunatic or and vote for him anyway. Because like, why shouldn't you if you think that it's the only option that represents your best interest? And I don't still think. I think that I don't still know what you are meaning by the crumbling of the West. That we, for example, demographically change to the point of not being majorly European.
Well, I mean, this is something that a lot of alt-righters would be concerned about. I don't. People misinterpret me as being part of the alt-right. I'm not. I'm concerned.
Well, yeah, it's a buzzword for me. It's like a meme. And,
alt-right is generally
general slur.
Well, right, but it's generally synonymous with kind of white ethno-nationalism or what have you. I'm not really part of that crowd, although I do, I keep abreast of it. I mean, I don't want to go into my sort of motivations. I'm kind of a transhumanist. Okay. I think you change the fundamentals of society, you're going to lose the technological drive. But that's a separate thing, and I don't want to go too much into that.
Okay.
But I do obviously for those reasons, because I have my own motivations for opposing quote unquote diversity. I mean, I do believe ultimately in meritocracy. People alt-right doesn't like that view. Incidentally, they're all about the ethnic purity. But the point I would make is. The only way you could have an effective immigration policy is if you screen people very, very carefully, whatever their origin is, to see if they're a good fit, if they actually contribute something. That hasn't been in place. Now, it's just a fact, as you pointed out. Then most people, I'm not like that, but most people just tend to cling to their own kind when they're large groups of them. Everywhere you look. Whether it's the United States, whether it's in other places of the world. I mean, even in Poland, historically, not many of them left these days. But one of the reasons why things happened to Jews in Poland is because they segregated themselves. They didn't try to integrate into Polish society. In fact,
that's also a well-known point that earns you a
label. It's a fact. They weren't integrated. It's a fact. Many of them didn't speak Polish. Maybe some of them did. I think a majority. I think the stats I looked at were something like 70%. Now, I'm not saying that justifies what happened, but I'm saying that that's a causal explanation. Well, not entirely, but it's part of an explanation. So everywhere you look, people bunker down into their own little ethnic or religious or combination identity. It's just whether or not you as an individual, as you pointed out, I'm not like that. I don't only hang out with Americans or Hungarians or whatever. I have quote unquote diverse friends, but I don't go out there. But I'm not friends with diverse people because I have a fucking list that I'm checking off. It just happened that way.
Yeah.
But the thing is, most people aren't like that, and so they bunker down. They get in their little groups. And it creates conflict. It created conflict in the 20th century. It created conflict 500 years ago, and it will continue to create conflict. There's a phenomenon in London called white flight. It's not just London. White flight is a thing everywhere, but where London is now majority not white, and a lot of the white people are just getting up and leaving if they can. Now,
I didn't know.
Yes.
Well, all I knew was that John Cleese was concerned about it.
Well, it's yes. London is now majority quote unquote colored. Now, I have my own views on that, but the point is that most people, white British people actually, they're proper British people, don't really feel comfortable being surrounded by 20 different cultures and 20 different ethnicities, particularly with regards to Islam.
Well, apparently it's the holy grail of where Europe is heading.
Well, and this is a problem because
nobody, and I feel that nobody ever gave me a rationale why is it a holy grail.
Well, there is none. That's the point. These people just sort of preach this diversity crap, and they don't realize, as I pointed out, that this could end up in disaster. It's already not ending up particularly well. It's just that people naturally sort of even I when I was much younger. This is well over 20 years ago. I took my first year abroad, and I was in Austria.
Yeah.
And me being American, at least by nationality, I don't have a lot of opinions of what it means to be American. Basically, it means nothing. But
okay.
Still, when I went there, I made the mistake for the first half year of just clustering around other American English speaking people. One, because the program was funded, it was an American university that funded it, but still, I didn't realize what I was missing out on. And so I think there's a natural tendency, over time I changed that policy as I started living in other countries, and I had American friends occasionally, but by and large I would just whoever I got along with. But that's just what people naturally do, and if you change, well, first off, I think Europe is Europe because it's let's be honest, because it's European, right? It's not. It's not
probably
historically has not been an Arab continent. Well, okay, you could talk about the Moors, but Western Europe, Central Europe, Eastern Europe have historically just been European places. I think even if you're completely disinterested in questions of ethnicity, then you could still make the argument that would be so disruptive to the continuity of a functional society that completely displacing these people through immigration policies probably isn't the best idea. It's probably, even if your only interest is in harmony and just sort of things being somewhat functional. As I said, my interest is in technological development and advancing just our science, and I feel that you can't do that when you're inviting in hordes of illiterate Muslims from all parts of the world. It doesn't work. So I have.
You see, I think that we would agree that we would agree on the overall goal to be the technological advancement. I'm a fan of that.
Yeah.
And why I also am opposed to too many Middle Easterns in Europe is that their culture, like Islam, isn't something that enhances, for me, in my opinion, the technological development. They deal, their views, at least for the radical or even moderates, as we know, their views push the society to the
back.
They push their back. They didn't have the conversation and the development of the culture, which Christianity and the West already had, and could move on to the greater technological development. For instance, take women's rights. Their position in the society is basically half of the brain power, and this half of the brain power is squandered and put like it's stopped in its tracks.
I would contest that women contribute a whole lot, but that's a separate issue.
Well, yeah, it's a separate issue, and I wasn't trying to be accurate and go to this stuff. But basically, when you have some kind of society which treats its women like objects and like property, and it's sometimes it feels looking there like looking at some middle ages, like the middle aged.
Well, it's not just the women; the whole men too. They have all these obligations. You have,
yes,
and if you're a human being in Muslim society, you're gonna have lots of obligations, and you're gonna basically be living under a prescribed way of life.
Well, yes, of course, and it's not a secular society. It's a theocracy basically, and for example, what I was when I was thinking 10 years ago, what are the goals of the human race as a whole? I thought about, for example, going to Mars or something like that. We can't do that, like importing millions of people.
Yeah.
Millions of people who just didn't figure out how society should work, so it just stops us. Like,
well, I mean, that's correct. You're getting at the core of my argument, and it's not just against them. I mean, I'm actually working on a pretty big scripted video on outlining all these problems. Is that whether it's political correctness or inviting the Muslim hordes or the African hordes or whatever, all of this is a hindrance, is an obstacle.
Yes,
trying to move civilization ahead. And that's why, I mean, my motivations for sort of opposing this stuff are actually different from alt-right motivations. But, I mean, there is some crossover in that regard, and that's, I guess, why I get lumped in with them. But regardless, it is opposed to the mainstream dogma of our time, which is multiculturalism, everybody's the same, yada, yada, yada. There's no evidence for that. I mean, you can yell it as long as you want, but you can just look at the streets of certain cities, and you can just tell that people aren't the same. And I think Europe is sabotaging itself in a way. I mean, we're setting back progress that has been made since the decades of World War II, the end of World War II, moving into a new direction of effectively political, economic, and scientific depression. And I can't endorse that, unfortunately, because that conflicts with my view of where I'd like to see things go for the species. I kind of look at things at the level of the species, and I actually think that it would be more beneficial for the hordes of Africa and the hordes of the Middle East in the long run to not show them quote unquote compassion, let them stay in their places for the next couple of decades and hundreds of years, whilst they develop, or maybe not, and the civilized world gets on with its business of trying to push the species ahead, and maybe one day the other peoples of the world can benefit from that, and they'll be more civilized and whatever, but we're not there yet. In fact, we're very, very far away from that, and so we can't afford, I think, as a civilization, particularly European civilization, to fall so far behind. Or that includes American society. Because American society is so it's even worse than Europe in some cases. Fall behind certain, allow themselves to be controlled by political limitations that are just silly. I mean, not being able to say certain things, not being able to pursue certain avenues of research. This is going to it is crippling the West, and it will cripple the West continuously. So I can't in good conscience support any of the nonsense going on. I don't, and it happened so suddenly, because when I was growing up, I mean, nobody. People would make ethnic jokes and people would laugh. I mean, maybe it was in poor taste, but nobody would come at you with a stick and hit you with it. No, you can't say that. Things have really gone in the wrong direction. And I can't. Of course, I'm just an individual and I have no importance, so nobody's going to listen to me. But I do think that in general, Germans are going to get back to the original question, keep their head in the sand until everything explodes. Yeah. And I think it's going to happen in France and the Netherlands and Scandinavia, and that will be the fate of Western Europe, I think, in my humble opinion.
Well, we'll see what happens. Frankly, I think that our time is running out now, because I don't want to abruptly end it, but it's been 2 hours and a half.
Yeah, no, for sure. I gotta do some stuff as well. But anyway, everyone, thank the audience. Will thank Stysiak for joining us. He offered a much needed commentary on Poland, as well as CD Projekt
Well,
RED.
we didn't touch on everything, but well,
we covered enough ground, I think. Yeah.
We covered enough, I think.
Okay, everyone, thanks for tuning in,
Okay.
and I will check you out soon. And Stusiak will continue building Polish civilization.
Hopefully, I'll be important and piece of the puzzle here. Well, it was nice to speak with you, and well, I'm available anytime you want.
Thank you for joining me.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
If you liked this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you enjoy my content, please consider making a donation or becoming a patron. Thanks for watching.